I thought maybe it wasn't Todd, and somebody was whispering to tell me that it's not Todd, it's somebody else. It's Todd too.
The mind. Man, the mind is a battle zone. Who in here struggles with their thoughts? Only half of us. That's great. Man, that is so good to know.
Some of us thought about raising our hands.
Yeah, that's right. Would you believe that the mind is the central agency for everything that is processed? And man, it goes so quickly, and it can go so quickly away from us. It can get us in so much trouble. What are some things that can control your mind that leads to death? What are some things that can control your mind that leads to death? What are they? It's a lot of stuff, but what are they? What are your thoughts about that? It can lead to death, spiritual death. It can lead to physical death too, but spiritual death. What is it?
Anger.
Anger. Very good. Anger. Keep it going.
Stress.
Ooh, Gary, did you say stress?
Yep.
All right, let's go.
Worry.
Worry or anxiety.
Lust.
What?
Lust.
Lust. Very good, Dustin. You said what?
Contentment.
Contentment can lead to death? What do you mean?
Like if you just being content with what you have, don't like over want something.
Got you.
Cover what your neighbor has.
Okay. All right. Got you.
Selfishness.
Selfishness. Man, y'all are nailing them. Keep going.
Not just the presence of temptation, but allowing it to stay in your head.
Yeah, letting it set up camp. How about a lack of forgiveness for others? How about that? I can't spell.
Well, malice is
Malice.
kind of the word for that.
Malice.
Complacency.
Being complacent. I don't know spell that. You just said never satisfied is what you meant.
Uncontent.
Uncontent, never satisfied. Okay, so listen, it's not just alcohol. It's just not pornography. It's just not all of the sins that we like to label that people get and people have that people struggle with, that mostly addicts have. It's not. The list can go on and on. I wrote some of these down. How about being self-absorbed? How about that? We can get self-absorbed. How about self-righteousness? Thinking that you got it all figured out and you would never do this. You would never do that. How about just laziness? How about thinking that everything's about you? How about maybe seeking pleasures and not having any boundaries in life? How about that one? And then maybe sometimes we can worship people instead of God. Have you ever thought about that before? How many times does a preacher leave somewhere because there's a split in a congregation, and people follow the guy that's preaching? How about that? That can be a real issue. That can be a real problem. So this is real. Things that can lead to death. But what I want us to do tonight, I want us to finish this up because this is so important, is the way that I think about you has everything to do with the way that I treat you. Right? The way that I think about you as my brother in Christ has everything to do with the kind of relationship that we're going to have, even when things go wrong. The way that I think about you as my shepherd, as my elder, has everything to do with how well that I'm going to be managed in the flock. Is that a true statement? It has everything to do. The way that I think and perceive other people that aren't yet in the Lord, that God is going to place me in their path, has everything to do with their salvation by the way that I think about them. What happens if I think the wrong thing about somebody and that's not true? What have I done? I have passed judgment on them. And there is a price to pay as a Christian for passing judgment on somebody. Judge not lest you be judged.
Whoever played that lady again.
Uh-oh. Whose was that? Was that Landon or Greg? That was Landon. That's okay. Landon is honest.
That's what I said. That's what that said.
I want you to, as we begin to kind of finish this up, there are some powerful passages tonight that we're going to look at. That every single action that we have, what leads from our mind and our heart comes out of the abundance of the heart. What speaks? The mouth does. Do you know that I believe 100% based on what the Bible tells us? Man, Landon, is that Todd calling? I want you to think about this. If you could get rid of one body part, what body part would you get rid of, Stacy? It'd be the tongue. Think about that. If you could get rid, if it was your eyes or your ears that had to go, what would you keep, Steve? You keep your eyes? Okay. Man alive. Oh, okay. That's our
Thank
child.
goodness it ain't me. It usually is.
It normally is you, isn't it?
It is.
Okay.
Alzheimer's calling me, 94-year-old calling me, knowing I go to church on Wednesday night.
A guy?
But I didn't take it. No, I ain't.
Oh. I thought you was talking about a
Yeah.
94-year-old guy.
Yeah, I tell her, so don't call me on church night.
Yeah, quit calling me. The tongue, y'all. The tongue is so powerful. And here's what we're going to do. As we finish up talking about the mind tonight, we're going to move into this right here. This right here can keep you from going to heaven. Did you know that? Did you know that? I believe that there are a lot of Christian people that will miss out on heaven because they cannot control this. And with this, we bless people, and with this, we send people to hell. We do. It's a real problem. Let's get in the Word and see how important the mind is. Look over at Romans chapter 8. We're going to start Romans chapter 8. And I turn right there. Romans chapter 8, I want you to look at verse 5 and verse 7. Romans chapter 8. Paul's going to talk about being free from the indwelling of sin that lies within us. Verse 5, Romans chapter 8. For those who live according to the flesh, what do, church? They set their minds on things of what? The flesh. Listen, if you live to the flesh, it's not... Is everything okay? Okay. When your kid's in college and they call you and they know you're at worship, that's a problem. But she's good. Okay. Think about this for a minute. Look at this again. For those who live according to the flesh, they set their minds on things of the flesh. But those who live according to the Spirit, the things of the Spirit. For to be carnally minded is what?
Death.
It is death. If you think, well, first of all, if you translate the Greek word carnal, it means flesh. So if you constantly are thinking like the flesh, the world thinks, that leads to death. It leads to death. We really, really, really need to think opposite of the way the world thinks. You know, we're going down the road, and Jason is in his car, and he cuts me off. What does the world say do?
Something ugly.
Flip him the bird. Honk the horn. Watch it now. You felt bad. Y'all, listen, she bought me this shirt. That's Olaf on the front. Because I was coming through the parking lot about a month ago. I was coming from over there by Subway, and she wasn't watching where she was going. And I just casually waved, and she laid on the horn. Is that what happened? I wasn't watching. I wasn't watching where I was going, and she lovingly said, "Hey, you better watch it." Anyway, think about this, y'all. Think about this for a minute. If you want to deal with the problems of the world, then you think like the world. Really, think like the world. Do what the world does. So here's what Paul says. Paul says, look, if you want to be carnally minded and think like the world, for to be carnally minded is death. But to be spiritually minded is a life of what? Peace. Man, you got to think like Christ thinks, to be Christ-like. How would Christ think about this? What was the wristbands that came into play about 20 years ago? What were they?
Jesus did.
What would Jesus do? No, what did Jesus do? Right? You wouldn't have to worry about, you don't have to think about what he would do. We know what he did. We know how he handled things. But too often times, we're programmed to think like the world does. And what happens is we get these things in our mind, and then we set up camp, and that's what rules us. It all starts right here in the mind. Look what else he says. He says, verse 7, because the carnal mind is enmity against God. What does that mean? What does enmity mean? What?
Mine says hostile.
Hostile? What else does enmity mean? What else have you got?
Enemy.
It's the enemy of God. If you think fleshly, then you automatically are going to act fleshly. You're going to act fleshly. He says, so look, this is the enemy. This is being carnal, being worldly is the enemy of God. For it is not subject to the law of God, nor indeed can be. So then those who are in the flesh says that you cannot please God. You can't. And if we trade our spirituality, or we live a life to where we're one day in, one day in, one day out, then what happens is we become lukewarm. And you know what that means. And that's not what we want to do. We don't, look, I sometimes worry. Does that mean I'm going to hell? Of course not. But when I practice this and I don't allow God to have my anxiety and my worry to the point to where I just throw my hands up and I give up and I quit believing in God and having faith that God can take that, then I'm on the edge. I've got to get some help a little bit deeper than what's going on in my life. If you're rooted in anger and this is a great emotion. There's a lot of reasons that we ought to be angry. What's some things you ought to be angry about right now? What should you be angry about right now? Come on. This is an easy one.
Our government.
Government, 100%. Man, I love a woman that'll just say it. What's some other things we ought to be angry about?
What the world is putting out to our children in
Yeah.
school. And
That's healthy. Listen, when Jesus flipped those tables over, that was anger, and he didn't sin. Right place, right time. Anger is a great thing. That is a healthy emotion. But what we don't want to do is we don't want to be at the place to where we practice this and we're rooted in this, and it becomes bitterness and resentment, and we can't forgive, and we can't move past this. That's why the Bible says don't let the sun go down. That's not in the literal sense that I can't be angry past midnight or when I go to bed. Hey, listen, somebody rapes your kid, you're going to be angry a while. Somebody has an affair on you, you're going to be angry for a while. You're going to be angry with yourself. I remember when I was struggling with a certain particular sin, when I was drinking and I was trying to quit, and I was trying my best to live right, and I would mess up over and over again, Steve. And somebody told me something that freed me. He said, I tell you what you do. You fire yourself tonight, and then you rehire yourself in the morning. And that's what I started doing. I finally got to the point to where I dealt with the anger, and therefore I was able to quit drinking. Because I drank as a way to deal with anger. That was my coping mechanism for not dealing with my childhood and the things I was angry about. So I can't practice these things. Am I going to struggle with lust? Everybody do this. Yes. Sometimes we struggle with these things. There's a whole list. But you can't allow that to control you. But if you got to realize I can't please God if I live in the flesh. It all starts right here in my mind. Okay, look, flip over to Romans 12. Now, you just talk when you want to. Romans 12, 1 and 2. Watch this. This is powerful. Romans 12, 1 and 2. I beseech you, therefore, brethren. He says, I beg you, by the mercy of God, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable to God, which is your reasonable service. Now watch. And do not be conformed to the world. Don't think like the world, but be transformed by the renewing of your actions. Did it say that?
no.
Let me get it straight. By the renewing of your mouth. Mind. Where's it start at? Look, actions follow what you think. This right here follows what's here and what's here. He says you have to renew your mind. You've got to redirect. About a week ago, I was thinking the wrong way, Marvarine. I was thinking the wrong way about something the other night, and your phone rang, didn't it? And what did we talk about? You don't have to tell everybody, but did I call you? And you know what she did? She helped redirect my thought process about a certain situation. Help get me back on track, Steve. That's daily. We got to renew our mind daily. Good stuff in, good stuff out. Look, he's going to go on further. Look at Look at this, 2 Corinthians 4. Now, somebody tell me how difficult this is to do. How easy is it to redirect your mind? How easy is it? It's not easy. Why? Well, because the devil's throwing stuff at us constantly, all the time. He's throwing stuff at us all the time. Look at 2 Corinthians 4. If he can get your mind in a bad place, and he can keep you there in your mind, he can keep you there living what you think, then guess what? He's got you like that. But watch this. Therefore, we do not lose heart, even through an outward man is perishing, yet the inward man is being what?
Renewed.
I'm getting older every day. Every day. I turned 50 a month ago. Can you believe that?
Bless you.
50 years old, Josh. Can you believe that? Steve, how old are you? 62. Oh, no. Man, I remember when you were 42. How old were you when you became an elder?
44.
44 years old. At 50 years old, my body is every day getting older and older. But what should my spirit be getting every day?
Renewed.
Man, it ought to be getting renewed. Man, I ought to be getting stronger. The things that I dealt with, Jason, a year ago, I shouldn't be dealing with those things. The things that I struggled with a year ago, I ought to be overcoming that. There ought to be markers and indicators in my life that I am moving past that if my spirit is getting stronger. Look what he says. He says, I'll tell you what you need to do. He said, don't lose heart because your body, your physical body is perishing, but your inward man's being renewed day by day. For our light affliction, which is but for a moment, is working for us a far more exceeding and eternal weight of glory. While we don't look at the things which are seen, but at the things which are not seen, for the things which are seen are temporary, but the things which are not seen are eternal. So think about that for a minute. Man, am I really thinking the right way every day and working on the things that I'm thinking about? Are they making me stronger? How many of y'all love to watch TV? Oh, that's positive. I used to be a big TV watcher, but now when I sit down in there in the living room, what do I say? Man, hit mute. Just hit mute. How many of you love to just sit there? Why do we sit there? Why do we sit there? So we can what? Think. Peace. Quiet. Marvarine, you had your hand up. Or were you waving?
I was waving.
All right.
She was saying
She likes TV.
She watches TV.
Yeah, I was watching TV.
Got you.
Gunsmoke.
Gunsmoke. Gunsmoke. Colossians 3. Colossians 3. Watch this. This is so good. Colossians 3, 1 and 2. Watch, this is so good. If then you were raised with Christ. Okay, look, if you're a Christian, if is condition based. Okay? If then you were raised with Christ, he says, I want you to do three things. He said, number one, I want you to do what? Seek spiritual things. You seek things above. All right, so here's what that means. That means I can't listen to certain music. I just can't do it. I can't watch certain shows. I can't watch certain movies. I can't be seeking maybe some things that you're seeking. There are some things that Josh can do that I can't do because Josh don't struggle with it. So therefore, Josh don't do it around me. Does that make sense? There are certain things that Jamie can do that I can't do because it would be a stumbling block, so she don't do it. So look, watch this. Be careful who you hang around with. Seek those things that are above where Christ is sitting at the right hand of God. That's number one. Number two, he says you set your mind where?
On
Things above. So you know what I do? I talk to people that have their mind on things above. You know why? People you hang out with are the people you will be like. Birds of a feather.
Flock together.
Evil companions corrupt good.
More.
Play with a dog, you get
Dusty was raised
fleas.
on that.
What? Say that again.
I said Dusty was raised on that.
He was raised on that,
On bad company corrupts good morals.
on bad parenting, bad
And that's
grandparenting.
his thank you.
The people you date.
They always raised on that.
I've taught our kids. Yeah, we've taught our kids. Every date's a potential mate. The people you date are the people you marry. The best time to get a divorce is before you get married. Right? Be careful who you hang out with. You will adopt what they think. Be careful who works for you. You will adopt what they think. Be careful. Be careful. Think about that. Be careful. Everything, be careful. This is a major warning. Set your mind on things above, not on things of the earth. For you died, your life's hidden in Christ in God. When Christ, who is your life, appears, then you'll also appear with him in glory. Then you got to do something else. Verse 5, you got to put to death your members which are on the earth. Now look at all these fleshly things. Fornication. Don't be out having sex all the time with people. Don't do that. These people had a problem with that. They were fornicating. Uncleanliness, passion, evil desire, not wanting to see people do good. That's evil. Covetous, wanting what everybody else has got. Because of these things, the wrath of God is coming upon the sons of disobedience, in which you yourselves once walked when you lived in them. But now you yourselves are to put off. You put off all these. Look at that, y'all. Anger, wrath. You said it. Malice, blasphemy, filthy language out of your mouth. Don't lie to one another, since you put off the old man with his deeds. And you put on the new man. So think about all of these things that he just said. He said, look, if you want to think the right way, you got to start seeking things that are up here. You really want to do right? Set your mind on things that are above. Get rid of that stinking thinking. You're having marriage problems? I tell you what, you get your mind straight. You get your mind straight. You seek the right things. You set your mind straight. You put to death those things. And you put off those former things, and I promise you, your spouse will see a difference in you. They'll want to be around you. You see, at our age now, we're not really attracted to each other physically. I mean, we are, but.
I don't know a whole lot, but
Can you say what I meant to say? Say it.
it's not as important as it used to be.
And the church says, amen. It's wisdom from an elder right there. Okay, let me rephrase that. It is important, but it's not the priority. Okay? What I want more than anything is to come home to somebody that's peaceful. Because a person that's peaceful has got their mind set on things up here. They're seeking things up here. All the other stuff will follow. Does that make sense? Is that good? That's good. You know what I mean. You know what I mean. Psalms 19:14. All right, y'all better speak up tonight. Psalms 19:14. We're rolling through it. Next week's going to be fantastic because we're going to talk about what's in that mouth. And that is the problem. Psalms 19:14. We get the mouth stuff figured out, and guess what? Man, we fix a lot of potential issues and a lot of problems. Man, oh man, Judgment Day will be a whole lot better for us. Look at this, verse 14. Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in your sight. Now think about that for a minute. What does that passage mean? Help me out. Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart. Let the way that I speak, let the way that I act, let what's in here and in my mind be pleasing unto God. So can you answer that question right now? Is what I'm about and is what I'm thinking, is it a blessing to God? Is it? And if it's not, why not? Does that make sense? What's your thoughts?
You do have to keep your mind right. Keep your priorities straight.
Priorities. Big deal, isn't it? Man, sometimes we can just... I tell you, one of my biggest struggles right now, and I'm just being transparent with you, is I really want to get retired. I'm really tired of people. I'm just being honest with you. If Landon, you're smiling, and you know what I'm talking about, don't you? man, Adam Street, shall I go on? McClone, Eccles. You want me to keep going? Okay, y'all, you know this. We're not dealing with the same people we dealt with 10 years ago in construction. We're not. We are dealing with people that ask you to do the unthinkable, and they will rip you over $12, Robert. Are you with me? Parents in the school system are asking you to come in the house and get their kids ready for school so you can get them on your bus. Y'all, we're dealing with people in this culture, in this society, because it has become a godless society. There should be no wonder why kids behave the way they behave. God is not in their home. They're not getting their tails busted. God's not in their home. That bleeds into our families, into our home. It's called stress. We bring it home with us. And what happens is we create a thinking in our house that just comes into the church. It's a problem. So one of my problems is I want to be retired. I'm on the month countdown now. People say, why in the world are you retired so young? I'll be honest with you, I'm tired of dealing with people. Stacy, I mean, am I wrong? No. I mean, it's y'all. But I can't think that way. That's the wrong way to think. It really is.
It took, in my lesson tonight, it took 95 years for Jacob before God touched that hip and made him where he couldn't move. I mean, it's like taking your child and, breaking their will, He was at 95 years old. So it's not just children. I mean, obviously you're seeing it in the adults.
Yeah. Well, and it's probably bad on my part. I probably shouldn't be thinking like that. I should be thinking in better terms. But, people will wear you out. Greg, Tammy, y'all know what I'm talking. People will wear you out. And, think about Moses. I mean, how many people was he leading? There was I believe it was over 600,000 just men. And in his tent one day, he said, God, take me out here and now. Just take me out. He was emotionally a basket case. And that's why Jesus retreated like he did. I think a lot of times that's why he taught in a boat off the seashore he could get away. People, especially in ministry, people can drain you in ministry. They can drain you. And that's the problem. We've got to be careful what we're allowing in here. We've got to be careful taking on other people's issues. All right, we got to go to Mark 7 because we're running out of time. We'll finish up right here. Mark 7. I hope this has been helpful to y'all. Look at Mark chapter 7, and we'll move on. Watch this, verse 14. Okay, here we go. Mark 7:14. When he had called the multitude to himself, he said to them, hear me, everyone, and understand. There is nothing that enters a man, now think about this, or woman, from outside which can defile him. But the things which come out of him, those are the things that defile a man. All right, now, what's he talking about? He's referencing back in the first part of the chapter where the Pharisees and the hypocrites were all upset because the disciples had not washed their hands to eat. So they're making a real big deal about this. He said, quit worrying about how dirty your hands are. Look at what Jesus said. He said, don't worry about what's coming into the body. Worry about what's coming out of the body. Verse 17, when he had entered a house away from the crowd, his disciples asked him concerning the parable. So he said to them, are you thus without understanding also? He said, you don't understand either? Do you not perceive that whatever enters a man from outside cannot defile him? But it does not enter his heart, but his stomach, and it's eliminated. So he's talking about what you eat. It's eliminated, thus purifying all foods. And he said, what comes out of a man that defiles a man from within, out of the heart of men. Now watch this. Look at the first part. He's going to talk about the mind. Look, he said the first is what precedes evil thoughts. I wonder why he listed that the first thing. You ever thought about that before? He said the mind, evil thoughts, that's number one. How do you think about other people? Are you quick to rush to judgment about others? Are you quick to want to talk before you listen? Are you quick to want to send people to hell for their sin before you even know what's going on? He said, number 2, adultery. Number 3, fornication. Number 4, murders. Number 5, theft. Number 6, covetousness. Number 7, wickedness. 8, deceit. 9, lewdness. 10, an evil eye. Blasphemy. Pride. Foolishness. All these evil things come from where? Within. And they defile you. What's the word defile mean? What's the word defile mean?
Make unholy. To
Spoil. You spoil. It's corruptness. It's rotten. He said these things make you rotten. And where did they start? Right there, the way you perceive. Look, you don't even have to say anything. You could have an evil eye. You could see a person and judge them. No, we wouldn't do that, though. We don't do that. We could see a person and we could immediately think an evil thought about them, and look what happens. You become rotten. He said, look, it all starts right here. You get this straight. You get this straight right here, and great stuff will come out of you. This is important in marriage. It is important that I see her as God's child. I am married to God's. You are married to one of God's children. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that awesome? You're married to one of God's sons. You're married to one of God's daughters. Man, ooh, there's going to be a price to pay if you mistreat each other. There's going to be a big price to pay. It all starts right here. How do I see my spouse? How do I see them? Do I treat them like the world treats them? Or should I not put them up here and treat them so special? That's what we should do. So here's the deal. You can't change the way you feel until you change the way you think. Right thinking produces right action. Right action is going to produce fantastic results in your life. Fantastic. Next week we're going to get into this right here. And this right here is a catastrophic failure at times for me. With this, we can do so many wonderful things that make us rich in great and wonderful deeds. It all starts right here. Or, you know what we can do? We can set the whole world on fire with this right here. He says, this is so strong, you can split anything wide open. You know why most churches split? Because somebody's running this. You know the sign of a wonderful, healthy church? Everybody's got this opened up, and they got this on lockdown. Same in marriage. I love you. Hope you have a great day.